Thanks for tuning in to the Long Island Local Podcast, recorded here at Audio Workstations in Bohemia, New York. We are interviewing local business owners, entrepreneurs, trying to provide you with the best information on all types of products and services available right here on Long Island. I'm your host, Matt, and let's jump right into the conversation. Welcome, everyone, to the Long Island Local Podcast, recorded here at Audio Workstations in Bohemia. And today, we are lucky enough to sit down with Debbie Viola, and her business is Art by Debbie Viola, and her website is debbieviola.com. Thank you for being here, Debbie.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited, Matt.
We like to bring the whole artistic spirit into the studio, and so we appreciate having artists on the podcast that are also businesses, because this is a business-focused podcast, but here we have an appreciation for art, so double good having you on. Let me ask you, when was the founding of your company? What year did you start officially making art?
2001.
Okay. Like 20, 21 years now?
I did not pick up a paintbrush until 1998 when I was 40. And we had just, and I didn't start with canvas art. I started with painting my walls. I started with decorative painting. We put a new bathroom in our house, and I convinced my husband, let me see what I could do. If it doesn't come out good, it's just paint. I promise I'll paint it back to white. There was no internet back then, really, so I couldn't look anything up. And I bought a sea sponge, and I just kind of blended the 5 shades of beige on the wall, and I put in some other colors and thought, oh, this looks okay. I didn't do a bad job. But the contractors were still working in my house. And they're like, this is the first thing you've ever done. You better quit your day job. You're better than any professionals we've ever seen. And I'm like, get out of here. They're like, no, look at those corners. I mean, it's so blended. It's beautiful. I'm like, really? And it just sparked something in me, because in high school, I wanted to take art, but I went to a Catholic business high school, and they made me take algebra and business math instead. Which,
no.
Yeah.
What
exactly.
a buzzkill.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So I guess I was this pent-up artist. And once I did that, and they said that to me, it just sparked something that I just wanted to learn everything I could about decorative painting and art. So I went to the libraries and got books out. And still, I was a legal secretary. I was great at what I did, but it was like so robotic, just going in. I mean, I had to eat lunch at my desk because we were so busy. Once my boss was like waiting outside the bathroom when I came out. And I said to him, if you ever do that again, you will never see me again. I mean, it was just a crazy, crazy busy atmosphere.
Like the most intense city and the most intense profession, and put them together. Manhattan, lawyer's office.
Yeah, totally.
So that's pretty much maximum stress. That's a huge transition, and that must have been a huge relief. That, I guess that's a painting on a wall pun. I didn't mean to do that. To go from something so high stress to being able to express artistically and locally, as opposed to traveling into Manhattan.
I was working for my boss for 20 years. I wound up quitting when I was with him for 23 years. And, it was just a hobby. I learned how to paint on glass. So I went to a local craft fair, and the table was $50. And I think I sold like $70 worth of stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I made $20. I was hooked. I was so excited, It was
instant profit.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But, this passion that I guess I had hidden all these years was like coming out, and I had something to look forward to. On the weekends, I would paint, but never, ever, ever had any inkling that this was going to lead to me quitting my job and throwing myself into this and trying to figure a way how to make money out of it. But that's exactly what happened. Let me just sum up. So what propelled me to quit that job was on September 11, 2001, that horrific day. I was at my office in the city, and 5th and 42nd Street, so Midtown Manhattan. But from the top floor of the conference room, you could see straight down to the towers. And by the time I got to work, saw the second explosion, saw everything that happened. My boss is screaming that he thought his friend, a colleague, was in the building at one of the meetings. Thankfully, he wasn't. But then, scrambling around on the phone with my husband, who worked in Queens. My daughter was a freshman at Barnard College in the city. She was frantic. We didn't know what we were going to do. Then I saw the buildings come down, and it's like, I still feel like I was living in a surreal, like, horror. I was part of a horror movie, and I just couldn't get out of. But as the buildings came down, like, I got to get out of here. I got to be with my daughter. As I'm walking to the elevator, my boss follows me with work. since you're leaving early today, could you do this at the dorm?
Wow.
And that was it. Like my jaw dropped, my mouth opened. I backed myself into the elevator and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I put up with this maniac for 23 years, and all he could think of is his work on a day where we knew there were people in that building. He thought his friend died. Like, what am I still doing here? You
Yeah,
know?
I understand being into your work, but there's levels of it
Oh my
where
God, yeah.
if things are going on around you that are historically horrific and tragic,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe you can take a break from the work for a few minutes.
Yeah, you think. And that was it. And because I'm a Libra and I'm very balanced and I'm very responsible, I forced myself to stay until Christmas to get my last little bonus,
Right.
Christmas bonus for my family, but I couldn't stand looking at him. I just,
Yeah.
drudged my way through for the next 3 months. And right after that, I quit. And I'm like, now what do I do? And, of course, I didn't spend those 3 months like formulating a business plan. I was just like, I got to get out of here. I got to do something for myself. I never want to work for anybody again. If I was a bit more strategic, I might have had a plan, but I really didn't, except that I never want to work for anybody but myself again. And I love this decorative painting, and what the heck am I going to do with it? What I did was I took like a local decorative painting class. I didn't know it at the time, but it was one of the top decorative painting schools in the country. And they had a facility in Floral Park. They had like a training school.
Oh, wow.
So between September and December, that was the only strategic thing that I did. I took 4 days off and I took that class and I came out with samples of different wall finishes. So I did have that. I did my bathroom, and then my sister-in-law had asked me, and then her friend had asked me. So I had like a mini album with like 3 rooms that I had done.
Portfolio.
That was my portfolio.
Yeah. Listen, sometimes all it takes is one good piece of work to convince somebody.
Yeah.
You could have 10 pieces, and if they're mediocre, you're not going to convince anyone. You could have 2 pieces that are fantastic, and that'll convince somebody. It's the strength of it.
Yeah. So, and what did I do with that? Like my first week of not having a job or money was, okay, let's see. Let me put some hand-painted wine glasses in a gift basket with a bottle of wine, and I'll go to a realtor in Garden City, right? Because that's a high-end neighborhood. And I'll see maybe they want to buy these as like closing gifts, because I knew realtors gave closing gifts.
That's smart.
Right. So I did that, and with my little mini photo album. And a week later, the realtor, there was only one person in the office. The realtor that spoke to me called me and she said, I'm redoing my dining room and I hate wallpaper and I don't want my walls painted plain. I'd like you to come take a look. So I went, and when I went to this lady's house, and she loved one of them, and that propelled me in business. I made enough money that I paid for the course, so I recouped my investment. Like, okay,
Nice.
I could do this, But then, when you have nothing in the beginning, it's all a matter of referrals. So then it was like waiting for the next job, and it wound up being her friend called me like a month later that she needed work, and so that has sustained me for another month, and then little by little and slow by slow, like that's how it builds. And then when you do enough work, you have enough of a referral system. And then I learned about BNI, which was, a national networking organization. So I joined a local chapter, just a local group of 20, 30 people in all different industries. And it was one person per industry. And the idea of it was that you met weekly and you got to know everybody. And you referred people in that group. So if there was an insurance person and somebody was talking about, I want to switch my house insurance, I would say, wait, I know Chris Wall. She's in that group, and, refer that person. And I'm very quiet and introverted. And I still force myself, all these years later, I still force myself into a room where I don't know people. I don't want to do it, but, you have to.
And it's never as bad as you think once you get in there. I relate to that.
Yeah.
So I believe you've already answered my second question in your story of how the company was founded, and that would be what was the inspiration for you to open it. And it sounds like that moment when you painted that room and then the contractors told you, this is quite excellent, that was sort of an inspirational moment.
Yeah, that propelled me forward to learn more about it. And suddenly I just had this hobby I was just so passionate about, and it was still always in the back burner because I had kids. By then, my kids were young teenagers. And I never thought I could quit my job, because they were going to private college and all that. But when September 11th happened, like, boom, I just had such clarity. Like, I
Yeah.
am done. I got to do something with this art. I don't want to wait until I'm 65, just getting another legal secretarial job, and the same thing would happen. I don't know if there's as many crazy maniacs as he was out there, but just almost as crazy.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to live my life with regret. I figured, you know what, now's my chance to give it a shot. And my husband, he was supportive. He said, look, if you know in a few months it's not going to happen, it's not going to work, and we need the money, you know what you got to do. You just have to get another job, but give it a shot. And I did. And here I am 20 years later. And, I still pinch myself.
That's excellent.
Yeah, that I kept my promise.
Awesome. And you said you had never picked up a paintbrush before that first time, right?
In first grade, I made a painting in art. In kindergarten, I missed finger painting one day because I was sick and I cried because I couldn't go. So I was a suppressed artist.
Well, that's a strong indicator from your inner child, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You were able to reverse that sadness in a big way just a lot of years later.
Yeah. And I haven't put it down since.
That's so cool. What would you say has been the most effective way of marketing your business?
Local networking played a huge part. And before I had grandchildren, my grandchildren, the twins are 10 years old, and I was helping out with my husband babysitting. Like before grandchildren, life before twins, I like to call it. I went to so many networking meetings. Like after BNI, I found out about David Gusson, an amazing Long Island networker. He's like the networking king. He runs 516ads.com and 631ads.com. And he just has a whole network of hundreds, probably by now thousands of people. He's the most genuine person. So somebody told me about him. I started going to his meetings, very informal, and, everybody makes you feel at home. And when you start going and seeing the same people, you start to form friendships and people get to know you. And that's kind of what happened. And David was a connector. He's like, you need to know Jo Harama. She's a wonderful interior designer. And Joe and I have been working together for years now, to the point where at the end, it's like I forget to ask her to get paid and she forgets to pay. You know what I mean? Because it's like we're friends. It's like, oh, wow, that's right. You got to pay me for this,
That's great.
It's just been amazing. And my husband had said, is it really worth it? Like sometimes you're out for breakfast and lunch and dinner, like it's crazy. And I sat down one year and I figured out, I added up all the jobs and what I got from networking and what I got other ways. And 40% of my jobs that year was from networking.
Wow.
So it's like, I can't stop. It does pay off,
And I like that it's sort of a sense of community as well.
Totally.
Because sometimes business can feel like it's not a community, or like it's like a hard world of financial warfare, against faceless people that you don't know.
Yeah.
And
try being an artist, that's really, really isolating because, I don't have anybody helping me. I don't have anybody to bounce ideas off. I'm climbing ladders and doing things on my own. So that's a whole separate problem besides the very real problems that you're talking about as well.
Yeah, you have the feeling of isolation within the art, but then when you get out into the business world, that's when you really need the isolation to stop. You really need to be able to network and talk with people once the art is done.
Yeah.
So I really like the networking focus on your marketing. So here's the question about the last 2 weird years. How did you deal with the pandemic issue as it relates to your business?
When we went down on lockdown on March 6th, 2020, right? That was the date, I believe. I'm like, oh, what could I do for 2 weeks that at the end of the 2 weeks when lockdown is over,
the 2 weeks,
the 2 weeks, right? I'm going to be proud of myself that I accomplished something, that I stuck to it. And it's like, exercise? No, that's not going to work. We already had like our boxes of Malomars loaded up. So we were good for the 2 weeks. So I knew I wasn't going to work out. So then I said, you know what? I never get to paint for myself. I'm so busy on jobs. I'm going to paint for me for a change. I'm just going to sit and paint. And I had a Facebook page. I still have a Facebook page, Art by Debbie Viola. And I'm a night owl. And with the pandemic, the stress and the anxiety at the beginning, I was up to like 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning. Literally, I just couldn't sleep. My head would hit the pillow and my brain would go spinning more so than normal. So what I did was I would go live on my page. And I would sit there and paint. And I have a family friend. Her name is Stephanie Zuccaro. And she's a music composer. And she has such beautiful, soft, relaxing music. And I knew with Facebook I couldn't play any, music that would get
Copyrighted.
me banned.
Yep.
So I would start playing her music. Every night I would say, this music is by Stephanie Zuccaro. And I would sit there and paint and talk. And I guess I would talk in a little lower voice than I normally have because my husband would be upstairs. I'd be afraid I was waking him up. And the later I went on, the more people came on. 5 minutes, there were 15 people, and then 20, and then 30 people, and everybody was like chatting.
Wow.
And most of them were creative people, interior designers.
It shows you how many of us are up late at night.
Yes. So that's what I did for the 2 weeks that turned into, I went live every night. I think I quit just this past July. I still get messages from people, private messages, thanking me for keeping them calm during the pandemic. I haven't been able to sleep, and I found you online, and just listening to your soft voice, you remind me of a female Bob Ross. And I'm like, oh my God.
That's a nice compliment.
Yeah.
We occasionally have been known to put on the Bob Ross on Netflix in the studio to create the Zen vibes.
Right.
Just having another artist to look and listen to, like that guide into that zone that you'd rather be in.
I went live every night. I think I quit just this past July or so because my art friends that I met online, they were like, how are you ever going to make money online by teaching people how to paint when all you're doing is teaching people how to paint for free on your page? And like everybody loves it, but you got to stop it. It's not good for business. So I just set up a workshop. It's going to happen December 7th. I'm running 2 live virtual workshops, December 7th and December 11th, that Saturday. How to Paint a Beautiful Rose. It's just $17. And I said, you know what?
Great.
Yeah, let's get it out. But it takes, you have to learn all the back end stuff of how to get it out there and all that. So I'm finally learning that. Going live every night has led to me starting a monthly subscription, like a Learn to Paint Club, where people pay me $27 a month.
Okay.
And I go,
that works.
Yeah, and I go live once a week inside that group, and it's a small group. So the other night I was on with one person. She had me like 2 hours. We would just
like a private lesson.
Yeah, private lesson, and
totally worth that subscription for that person at that moment.
Exactly. Yeah, and they also get access to well over a year old, almost 2 years old. They have access to all those recordings and all the live sessions.
Now, is this all through Facebook?
This platform is called New Zenler. So while I have the training there in case Facebook ever shuts us down, everything is inside of a Facebook group. So right now, everything I do inside of a private Facebook group. Once they sign up and pay me, I put them into the
Okay, so I see
group.
how it works. So they can pay you directly through PayPal.
Right,
or
they're set up
something
through
like that.
Stripe now with their credit cards.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then once they have made that payment, then they're allowed into the private Facebook group.
Yes, then, it took me like 3 years of going down this rabbit hole of online learning, like how do I do this, how do I figure this out, that I'm just now putting I've taken courses, so many courses, and learning this and learning that, and finally figuring out how to put it all together through it. And then I needed a platform. I didn't know I needed a platform, but when I found out I needed a platform, I learned about this, and now it's finally all coming together. But that's how I built my audience, through going live on Facebook.
That's awesome. I really love the combination of art and music together.
Yep.
One usually inspires the other.
Yeah.
And I often hear like visual artists talk about music inspiring the visual. So I think it's really great how different forms of art can sort of inspire one another and cross-pollinate. If you're constantly just thinking about the specific type of art that you do, it can be sort of one-dimensional. You get lost in the details.
Right.
And the technical aspects of it, and thinking too critically about what you're doing because you're so aware of all the details. But there's something about art that's not your specific type, where maybe you don't know enough about all the details that you can still be sort of mystified by it. It still sort of retains the magic that the average person who's not behind the scenes would experience. And so I think often when you get too deep into one art form, you peel back the curtain, everything that goes on behind the scenes, and then sometimes it can lose a little bit of that magic. And so other types of art that aren't your type of art, it just can still inspire you. I think that's part of that.
Oh, that's totally true, because I paint so many different kinds of things. I mean, when I'm live on Facebook, it's usually like a soft landscape or a seascape or flowers. Like those are my 3 main things. And I do small paintings, but I also create like, large paintings. And Bloomingdale's Furniture Gallery about 5 years ago called me up. They loved my decorative finishing and they called me in. They wanted me to create large paintings for their showroom so people would stop and look at the art and say, oh, wow, look at this beautiful couch. They didn't want people just rushing through their showroom. So I had a solo show there and I created 40 large, like 4 feet by 4 feet pieces of abstract art. And some of them were very soft and serene, and then some of them were like very bold and colorful. And it's true, if I had more upbeat pop music on, I would be more like bold. And when I wanted to get like zen and quiet and soft, it would be like, Stephanie's music. It's amazing how music does affect your genre of what you're doing.
That's cool. That
Yeah.
makes total sense, too. It just puts your whole mind and body in a specific type of zone and guides you to the type of art that you want to make. That's great. So of all the aspects of what you do, what is your favorite part?
That's funny because I was going to touch upon that. I was going to say that it has been a long time since I was commissioned to create like a large abstract piece. And I use my same tools. It's like a trowel with a handle on it. It looks like a mini ironing board. And I just, put specialty plasters all over. So I haven't done that in a while. I just did a wall finish like that. And it just felt so good, like just getting out there with all the colors and textures. So I do enjoy that. And at the same time, I do enjoy making flowers and pretty things, and I love the wall finishes. Lately, I've been doing a lot of cabinet painting jobs. I refinish people's fireplaces. I love taking like nothing, a blank slate, whether it's a fireplace or a cabinet or a canvas, and turning it into something.
Something ordinary becomes extraordinary, essentially.
Yes, yeah. That's even like mulling around at a craft show or something. I just love stopping and watching people do their craft because it amazes me that, people could take like rope and turn it into macrame or a piece of wood and turn it into this intricate, sculpture.
That makes sense.
Love it. Yeah.
Now, when you're doing a room and the walls, how much of the ideas will come from the client that's hiring you versus the things that you are dreaming up personally?
It's a combination. There are some clients, like my client with the blue cabinets. We spent weeks getting the perfect color because she found, like 3 years ago, she found this picture on Pinterest of these cabinets and it had no information of the paint brands or where to get the color. So she was mixing and had me mixing all shades of blue and black and white until she came up with the perfect. So once in a while, I'll get clients like her, which are wonderful, very specific. They know exactly what they want, and you can't deviate from it. So that's a challenge, right?
That is a special challenge.
Yeah. And on the other hand, it's the opposite that people like, just make it pretty. I have no idea what I want. And it's got to be a combination that we have to make sure that they like it, that they love it. It's their home, A painting is one thing that could be changed, but I still make sure they love their painting. But, to do something as permanent as their walls, like they have to love it. But this one designer, the woman, her house was very beige, very neutral, and she wanted me to do an accent wall in her dining room in these like deep, rich colors like copper and red and gold and, like a horizontal finish with a lot of different colors. It was like a painting, I was turning the wall into a beautiful abstract painting. And the client was like, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't know, I'm a beige person. And she's like, trust me, you're going to love it. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to love it. Just trust me. Can you trust me? And she's like, all right, I guess I'll trust you. Well, 2 days into the job, she's like, Debbie, it's beautiful, but it's not for my house. It's not me. I know I'm not going to be happy. I have to stop you. I'll pay you to do this whole thing over in like the colors I'm comfortable with, the soft champagnes and, cream colors, but you really have to stop. And I'm like, oh, and it was coming out so beautiful. It's like, okay. And it was at a point where it wasn't uneven. It just needed a couple more layers. So I kind of staged it so I could take a picture from my portfolio because it really was a beautiful room.
Yes.
I loved it so much, but she didn't, and you have to be okay with that,
Sometimes something is nice objectively, but not suitable for the client's taste.
Right. So you do have to learn how, the psychology of it and,
ultimately, they're the one living with it, right?
Exactly.
If it's a situation we're talking about in somebody's house,
right.
They're going to be around it every day.
Yes.
It's the most important that they enjoy being around
Right.
it.
So you have to be a good listener, which apparently I am.
That's an excellent trait. Now, we talked about the thing you like about the job itself. What do you like most about the business itself?
Not answering to anyone but myself. or my clients or my interior designers.
Being the
Okay.
boss.
Yeah, being the boss, just being, and while it's the worst part of my business, because it's the hardest, because I have to learn all the things, because I don't know all the back end stuff that I keep talking about, it's also the best part because I could create it however I want to. And, once I get this online up and running, I mean, I could be in Italy and still be making money while I sleep because I'll have all the systems in place. I'll have grown, I'll have sold workshops. My workshops will be like on evergreen, they'll always be out there. It doesn't always have to be that I'm on a schedule. Okay, I got to go live tomorrow
Right.
night for this class. It's
Yeah.
just the video is made once and I could push it out into the world and sell it. And that's a beautiful thing.
And that's a really good goal, I think, for anyone in business. Is often you get into a situation where the primary thing is you in the room in real time and, carving out the time of your day where you're awake, and that's a limited resource. And so that moment when you can figure out how certain things that you've already done can earn income when you're not physically awake,
Right,
when you're
yeah,
not physically
yeah.
paying attention to something.
Yeah.
That's, I think, a critical moment in the growth of a business and of your business specifically.
Yeah, and it's called like scaling your business.
Yeah.
Like I can't scale my local business. Like, I could only climb so many ladders in a day. And my brother-in-laws, they're in construction. They're like, so just get another crew and then you'll have two crews going. But people want me. They want my touch,
Yeah, and that's the tricky part
It's
about being an
different.
artist or an artisan
Yeah.
is that it's like it's tied to you and your labor. And but I think that's really great, though, that the Facebook groups and the teaching aspect of it, because that can, be that thing that is outside of the physically you doing it.
Exactly. And another thing is, once I get this scaled, I want to make an impact on the world. So I have to remember that I'm not doing this just for me. I'm doing this to help people that I want to help, to make an impact in the world.
And do you have some specific like charities in mind or organizations, foundations that you're...
Well, one is I had met the actor Gary Sinise a few years ago
Okay.
at an event, well, several years ago.
Lieutenant Dan.
Yes. Oh my God. And what an inspiration. He is a true American hero. His Gary Sinise Foundation raises money and he dedicates his life now to go around the world to raise money for his foundation where he builds smart homes for wounded warriors,
Wow.
for veterans that come home with no limbs.
Wow.
And he's also expanded it to help first responders. But ever since then, I have it on my brain and my heart that I want to create a patriotic line and donate 50% of the proceeds to his foundation.
I like that idea, the patriotic line and
Yeah,
involving
yeah.
Gary Sinise.
Yep, and even towers to tunnels. I mean, that's another thing close to my heart. They help people from September. There's so many. There's so many people that need help. I could go on and on.
Well, I really like that that's one of your goals. So this is the science fiction question. I'm a sci-fi fan, so we're going to enter the special Long Island Local Podcast time machine. We're going to go back to any point in your history where you could dispense advice to your younger self. What would you say?
Couple of things. First, why did you allow yourself to stay in that job for 23 years when he was such a toxic person and belittling you, when you felt like that was all you could do, that you felt trapped? Life is too short. Just get out of the situation and figure out a way to a better one. And then from a business standpoint, okay, just go out there and show the world what you have. You're talented. You could do this. Don't let it take you years.
That's good advice.
Like, just do it. Just have the confidence in yourself. Get over yourself. Get over your shyness and all that, because it doesn't matter. What's the worst that could happen?
Okay, so let's step away from the business for a second. Is there another thing that you do that's unrelated to the art and the painting and all that you use to unwind, to relax?
I love going for walks. I mean, I just love it. I'm in Massapequa, so I'm about 10 miles from Jones Beach. Love going on the boardwalk. Better yet, in the sand, just walking by the shore. I also live 4 blocks from a preserve that goes for miles, and it's just beautiful. It connects like Massapequa to Bethpage, and I don't know, I've never taken it all the way, so I really don't know where it goes, but just locally where I am, there's a lake, and this time of year, it is just...
Fall is a great time
oh my
to
God,
walk.
it's magnificent. So now every day when I come back from somewhere, like my normal instinct is go in the house and make the phone call, do the thing. But now when I close my car door, it's like, I'm going to go for a quick walk. And I'll go into the preserve. And even if it's just like, 15-minute walk, it's just like it's
Yeah.
just wonderful.
I appreciate that. I also like the nature walks, and here on Long Island, we do have some nice nature. If you can remember to get out to it and enjoy
That's it. Yeah.
It's right there for you. There's so many nature preserves and parks and beaches. So as far as unwinding, nature is the thing, and that makes total sense, especially if some of the things that you like to paint are nature inspired.
Yes.
So thank you very much, Debbie. It was a pleasure talking to you today about all the different types of art that you are offering and the online classes. And it was really inspirational to hear how you went live during those lockdown weeks and help people get a little sense of peace when it was so stressful. And I really like that. So thank you to Debbie Viola, Art by Debbie Viola, and the website is debbieviola.com. For excellent artistic walls and canvases and abstracts and all types of objects that can be painted on awesomely. So thank you very much for coming. And we hope to have you back and to see some of your art in the future.
That sounds great. My motto was, if you see a boring wall, give me a call. And if it's not breathing, it could be painted.
Oh, I love that. I love when people have cool catchphrases and taglines. So if you see an empty wall, give me a call.
Right.
Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you see an empty wall, give Debbie a call.
Awesome.
I love it. All right. Thanks, Debbie. And thanks
you.
everyone for listening. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Long Island Local Podcast. If you're interested in studio membership programs for music production or content creation, please visit audioworkstationsinc.com. And please check out our guest of today's podcast. We enjoy having on all local entrepreneurs. If you'd like to be considered for a featured interview on our podcast, please contact Long Island Local Podcast